Let's talk about your own book. I think the book you published recently. Tell us about your book. Is it in English? Is it in Italy or
Okay.
Italian? And what is the content inside the book? Yeah, tell us more about that.
And once I was in a conference and a girl said, yes, but we cannot give life back to people who died in Abdul Rahman Khan genocide. I agree, but I think that we can give justice back to this person. I think
Ah,
we can give justice back to his family, to all the people that lives the same situation. And without this justice, without this truth, the situation I think will never change. This is, I think, the most important thing. Recognize the genocide, saying loudly that Afghan national identity was built on killing Hazaras. It's true.
mm.
It's true. It's sad, but it's true. And denying history, it's the first step of creating new problems, I think.
Wow, I think you put it such a in a very beautiful line. Those situation of Afghanistan and the issue of Afghanistan. I think you put it in very like powerful and simple term that everybody
Thank
can understand. Yeah, like honestly, those lines were so good that when you said it, I'm like, yeah, I 100% agree. Like, suppose if they deny the genocide, if they deny the unfairness, if they deny the atrocities towards any citizen of Afghanistan, especially Hazara people, I think they are like creating more problem. They are just becoming part of more problem. I think you put it such in a good way.
Reza Kambari said a very powerful sentence. He said, my father was born in Afghanistan, I was born in Iran, my children were born in Indonesia, and nobody will know where they will born. And that is the reality of all the Hazaras, because he said, we don't have a place to call home still. And I think that sentence deserved to be the last sentence of the book. Resiliency is being killed by centuries and continuing to stand up. Resiliency is having the strength to go to a person that doesn't know nothing about and say, I'm not Afghan, I am Hazara, for
Mm,
example. Resiliency is saying being Hazara is not a crime, being Hazara is an honor. It's a proud thing. This is resiliency in a country that doesn't allow you to say this is resiliency. This is the strength of fighting. And the words of Reza, I think, are the perfect example. That is resiliency. He doesn't know where the future of his family will be, but he is sure the future of his family will be as our identity.
wow, you just blow me away. Honestly, like
6 months before the arrival of Taliban, Afghan government decided to attack Besud to find Alipur with more than 2,000 men. 6 months after, they don't have the strength to fight Taliban. They always go back to Kabul, since the Taliban take Kabul. So
mm,
I think we have to tell about these stories. We have to make people understand that in 6 months, Afghan government was a lion against Alipur.
Hazaras, yeah.
Yes, and then a little rabbit against Taliban.
Mm.
Why?
Hello everyone. Today I have a very special guest from Italy, and I got Claudio Concas. Apologies if I butcher your name, but please forgive me. He is an author, he is researcher, and more importantly, he is writing on Hazara people. Recently, he published a book, and today we are going to be hearing more about his experience, his researching journey about Hazara people. Claudio, welcome and thanks for your time.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to be here, and I'm very proud to can speak with you, speak more about my activities, my researches, and thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, the spelling is Claudio Concas, so it was correct. Perfect.
Okay, amazing. I'm glad. Thanks for correcting me. I was keep typing your name incorrectly all the time, which is a little bit embarrassing, but overall, thank you. Thanks for
Don't
correcting
worry.
me. Cool. Tell me how is your day been so far? What are you doing today?
Oh, today is holiday in Italy. It's
Mhm.
a kind of religious holiday. We call the Immacolata. It's the festivity in which we it's like the party of Virgin Mary. Okay, so it's one of the religious holiday that comes before Christmas. So it's starting to become the period of the Christmas in Italy.
Oh, amazing. So like Christmas come early and you guys feeling the holiday right now, which is good.
Yes, yes. Every year in Italy, but in Western world, Christmas comes always early. It's,
Yeah.
I think in 10 years we will have Christmas in November.
Yeah, I can see like you already put it the Christmas sweater, like the green Christmas tree type sweater, which is
Yes,
quite matching. Yeah, that's
yes.
good. Okay,
The
Glenn.
streets are already full of lights.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, apart from like joking around on a happy note, let's get back to our discussion. So tell me, like, I know you have been writing about Hazara people and you have
Yes.
been tweeting a lot about Hazara people and you are openly advocating for Hazara people as well. Tell me where this interest come from, like when it started and how you got into this sort of stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I started thinking about writing or studying something about Hazara people a long time ago. But the first time I thought that I had to do something, I didn't do nothing. It was really long time ago in 2007, 2008, when one of my closest friend, I will say a brother, has come here in Italy from Daikundi.
Oh, Daikundi,
After,
wow.
yeah, yes, after a very, very long and difficult trip, he did the trip a lot of refugees do back in the days, but even nowadays after the new coming of the Taliban. So he came here in Italy, and he was very young, so for him was difficult to understand a lot of things about Afghanistan politics. He raised in Iran, so for all his life he stayed in a different place. He didn't have a place to call home, but he couldn't understand why. So he started talking me about the Hazara people, but I was not really understanding a lot of questions about. Then he came back in Afghanistan in 2016, and after he came back in Italy, after 1 year, his perception was totally changed because he saw with his eyes what happened to his friends, for example, in Jalred. They were going to Kabul, they were beheaded, and he was in shock. So he came back and he told me, I know now what happens to my people. I know now why it happens to my people. And we need to do something even in the Western world where if you talk about Afghanistan, the people only think to one single Afghan that represents all the Afghan in the world.
Yeah, one
And
identity.
yes, yes. And he started saying me, for example, I don't feel Afghan, I feel Hazara.
Mm.
So I started to questioning myself and to understand and to wanting to understand better the problem. At first, it was not simple because there is very little amount of books written in English about Hazaras, and they are all written by Hazara researchers, Hazara professors. There is not a great contribution by Western scholars about
Mm.
Hazaras. And so I decided that this has to change in some way. And at first, I started studying Niamatul Ibrahimi's books that
Okay.
were fundamental for me, really fundamental. These books allow me to understand uh, allow me to understand the question, the problem, where discrimination was born, how it was institutionalized, how it became schematic and systematic. Then, after I read a lot of books, I decided that it was time to speak with people and to look in the eyes of the people I was speaking about and studying about, because I really feel that where science, the cold science, cannot arrive, maybe the story of the people can. And so I decided to I started with a page on Facebook called Voci Dall'Hazaristan, so English Voices from Hazaristan.
Mm-hmm.
Then a publisher house found me. We discussed the details about the contract, the book, and so. And after 1 year, the book was out. And it's like a portrait of the history of the Hazaras by the perspective of the Hazaras. So a challenging of the dominant uh, propaganda that is still on. I tried to retrace the story of Hazara since the ethnical background, since the first moments of Durrani Pashtun kings, then Abdurrahman Khan, obviously, the genocide, the slavery, the eviction from education, the all the social marginalization, the social exclusion, the political exclusion. Then arrived Taliban to civil war and to last 20 years. And about the last 20 years, I tried to focus a lot on oral sources. So I put a lot of interviews in my book about with people, with normal people, but with all kinds of people. I tried to
Mm.
speak with Hazaras in all fields to really understand how the discrimination was in all fields of Afghanistan politics.
Okay, interesting. I think thanks for giving us a very broad picture of like your research and like how it all started. I'm really keen to know like I'm sure like there was a lot of limitation as you mentioned. There wasn't a lot of resources, and most of the resources was published by on Hazara people, not a lot of Western scholar. But I'm really glad like nowadays a lot of scholar like they are researching on Hazara people, which is a good sign to my understanding. Apart from that, was there a lot of any other limitation, like in terms of language barrier or any other sort of like limitation you faced in your researching area?
Yes, for sure. Researching at the beginning was not simple because I didn't have a university. I was researching as a freelance. Now I am doing a PhD in the Milano University about Hazaras, but before it was really, really difficult. And as before, I found Hazara activists that really gave me suggestions to which books to find, even in English. It was difficult because I can give you an example. There is a famous book about Afghanistan history in Italy, and it's called The Military History of Afghanistan. It's written by a professor and general of Italian army that spent 15 years in Afghanistan. In these books, in this book, he said that in 2004, with the constitution, all the discrimination was cancelled, and Afghanistan became a peaceful country where ethnic backgrounds were valued or something like that. And that is the story how is written by a lot of
Mm,
people in Italy, and that was the most difficult part, understand how to break this false propaganda. In some books about Afghanistan history, there is written, for example, that Abdurrahman Khan was an enlightened king who fought against illiterate rebels. Okay,
mm,
and it was very difficult to understand how to break this because too much often Western society, Western academic only watch at what they write, at what they think. They still have a colonialist remaining of thinking in their heads, like to say, we are Western, we know how the world goes, the other doesn't know. And they
mm.
really want to teach, for example, to people from Afghanistan, how is the story in Afghanistan. I always dislike that, and yes, the greatest limitation was that and the language barrier. Yes, I have to confess that after 4 years, I still have to learn Persian because, because it's really difficult. I'm not a language person. I speak Italian, I speak English, and stop. But I will have to learn Persian. A great help was given me by the enormous amount of Hazara friends I made. They always made the interpreter for me. They always do translations, written and oral. They really helped me so much. I really want to say that this book will not exist without the help of all the Hazaras that were with me in writing, in interviewing, in thinking about topics, and also, yes, there was a language barrier, but it was broken by this great collaboration, we can say.
Okay, I think you already read my mind because that was my next question. I was like, how did you how did you deal with this limitation and like barriers and like did anybody help you or those sort of stuff? You already read my mind and then gave me the answer for that question, which I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine. Yeah, cool. Let's talk about your own book. I think the book you published recently. Tell us about
Yes,
your book. Like, is it in English? Is it in Italy or
okay.
Italian? And what is the content inside the book? Yeah, tell us more about that.
Um, the book is in Italian, and I'm planning to translate in English. I'm searching for a publisher, an editor, a publishing house that wants to buy the author rights from the Italian publishing house and to translate in English. And with that publishing house, I will start another we can say editorial project, but I keep it secret for don't spoil it.
Okay.
Yes, that I think translating in English is very important because I really want to arrive at Europeans and Americans, all the people that has to know, they must know what happens in Afghanistan.
Australians, you forgot.
Yes, Australians. Yes, yes, yes. I would say English speakers in general, for sure, Australian. And I know that Australia is a big community of Hazara people, one of the best, and that Australian government is giving a lot of recognition to Hazaras, and I think it's very important. The book is about the first chapters are I tried to do ethnohistorical research about Hazaras. I wrote in the book that it's very difficult to do some kind of researches because in Afghanistan there is no possibility of research, of free research, freedom of research, freedom of speak, freedom of thinking. And I think it will be very difficult if a historian goes there and say, hello, people, yes, I discovered that Hazaras were the original inhabitants of Afghanistan. I don't think Taliban will be very happy if a historian say like this. So I said that it was very difficult for me, but for all the people who studied this field to do ethnohistorical research with sources and all. You know, there is a great historian in Italy. It's called Alessandro. He once said that a student has. It is true that history is written by who win and not who lose. And he said yes. Before 1945, it was true. History was written by the winners. But after 1945, after the fall of Nazism, research was freed. There was the possibility of do free research. That is not valid for Afghanistan. That is
Mm.
not valid for Afghanistan. So I think that it's one of the most important point of my book is that yes, it is a historical research, but historians, archaeologists, sociologists, anthropologists deserve to study better Afghanistan. If there was a real government, a government that could really care about ethnohistorical history, they will help in some way, because I think that with all the discovery that could be made in Afghanistan, even Afghanistan tourism in a future possible new way could be very advanced by this. It's very important. Then I started speaking about Hazara history, so I spoke about the fact that discrimination became after Ahmed Shah Durrani and not with Abdul Rahman Khan, that the first Durrani kings were already taking Hazara lands, that for example Kandahar was full of Hazaras, and now it's considered a Pashtun city
Yeah.
without any doubt. And I said how this distribution of lands still hits hard in Afghanistan politics, still cause problem of poverty, of no food, of of a lot of limitations.
Mm.
And I think it's very important because considering even the forced displacement as part of the genocide is fundamental, is very fundamental, because Taliban are not Taliban now, but before Pashtun kings, Abdul Rahman Khan, they're not only uh, eliminating people, killing people, they are avoiding the possibility to start a new life. They was avoiding the possibility to work on the field, work on factories on the ground, and it was, I think it's a very, very important point to focus about, and to understand that it's part of the genocide. It's a cultural genocide too, and it's taking away the lands of the fathers, the grandfathers. It's really a crime against humanity and part of the genocide. Then I focused about Abdul Rahman Khan. I wrote even how, even if it's not very likable to hear, how British weapons were greatly responsible for Hazara genocide, because Abdul Rahman Khan used a lot of British weapons, used the help of British. And I tried to focus how it was not a war. It was really a conquer where Abdul Rahman Khan not want only to win against the enemy, he wanted to erase this as enemy. And I tried to put in the book the fact that that was the moment in which he realized he wanted to give Afghanistan a national identity, and that a national identity, his thought, could not exist with the presence of Hazaras in the country. And I think that there is no reason why people should still can deny Hazara genocide. It is written. There are Abdul Rahman Khan words, and that is what really annoy me a lot. That people who denies history still deny what is written. It's not an hypothesis. Abdul Rahman Khan spoke about the fact that Hazaras were the last people in Afghanistan, that they were slaves, that they were ugly, that they were infidels, that they have to be eliminated. It's written, it's history. And historians that still don't want to see this, for me, are not historians, are only fake, because they are trying to manipulate history. Okay. Then I try to focus about the fact that in 20th century, Hazaras were the last people on Afghanistan, and in the 20th century is very important in human history, and Hazaras were prevented to do politics, culture, education, participation, social activities, and that was a great. I think it's like colonialism. It's not different from colonialism. It's not different from what Europeans did in Africa, in a lot of countries, preventing a new culture to raise, to born to a lot of things. Then when I shifted to the last 30, 40 years, I used, as I said, a lot of oral sources. I interviewed survived people from Mazar-e-Sharif, from Yakablan, from Afshar. And I think that was the part, it was more difficult for me, because hearing the stories from Mazar-e-Sharif was really shocking, really, really shocking. I put two testimonies from two people that survived from Mazar-e-Sharif. One saying that he was Uzbek instead of Hazaras. So that opens another great question. If a person, for saving his life, has to fake his identity, there is no way that another person can deny that it's genocide. There is no way, because being forced to deny his identity to be saved, it's genocide. There is no doubt about it. Another testimony is from a person that experienced 3 years of Taliban jails from 1998 to 2001. And his words, I think, are the heaviest of all the book. I I spent a lot of time writing his story because it was very difficult to hear what he was saying to me. Looking in his eyes, I felt in a way rich after that conversation because I knew a lot of things more, but in a way very lucky to be born in a part of the world where this doesn't happen, and in another way responsible for letting people know what happens in other parts
Mm.
of the world. Then I shifted 20 years, and in this 20 years I tried to focus about some topics. For example, the fact that Hazaras were the pioneers of education, of democracy, of progress, of participation, of women roles. I interviewed Hazara athletes, Hazaras from public offices, professor. I interviewed, for example, even Dr. Minamadi, Salima Mazzari, Abiba Sarabi, all people that really gave a contribution to last 20 years.
Mm.
And I finished with the last sayings about what was happening after Taliban takeover, and the last pages are about Hazara's refugees in Indonesia because
Mm.
I found their story very, very incredible, and I thought that they deserve to be on the book. The sentence that closed my book is a sentence of one of these refugee.
I think that's my
Ali,
favorite one. That's my favorite one. I wrote it down in my note as well.
Alireza Kambari said a very powerful sentence. He said, "My father was born in Afghanistan. I was born in Iran. My children were born in Indonesia, and nobody will know where they will born." And that is the reality of all the Hazaras, because he said, "We don't have a place to call home still." And I think that sentence deserved to be the last sentence of the book.
Yeah, oh my God. I think you condensedly brought a lot of content and a lot of topic in your conversation. So I won't be able to go through each of them, but yeah, I will
Sorry.
quickly. Yeah, no. That was pretty good actually. Really,
Okay.
really informative. I think I will quickly go through like I loved it the way you went back to the history and tried to explain like why is it genocide and what some people like we are dealing with a lot of people from Afghanistan, they are like denying, they are saying like this is not a genocide, it's happening to everyone, which is not a true statement to my understanding. And it's not even like hypothesis to say like based on our assumption like genocide happened to Hazara, but it's in reality like as you mentioned, Abdurrahman the Amir, he explained that like eliminating Hazara and even the culture in Afghanistan built it that way, like instead of solving a problem, each king came into power and they tried to eliminate the people from the surface of the country. And instead of like focusing to solve a problem or like to recover or to bring or to connect the dot together or bring the gap together closer, and they focus on eliminating the minorities like the ethnicities and different ethnicities and those sort of stuff, which become kind of like the culture of Afghanistan, which that's why I hate when I read the history of Afghanistan. And another thing I wanted to ask you based on what you said, I think Hazara history is full of like traumatic stories. How did you deal with all those sort of stuff? I know like you kind of like mentioned it was very difficult listening to the people, the survival of massacre of Mazar Sharif and Daikundi, Yakaulan, and how did you deal with those sort of like stories?
Um, I think, as I told you before, it was very important for me to get into these stories, to not remain only on the scientific ground, but to get into the story. For me, it was important to look in the eyes of people I was talking about and with. Even because once I was in a demonstration about Hazara genocide, and there was uh, we can say a little theater spectacle, and this actress was a Zara girl, and she was reading all the victims, for example, of a lot of attacks, and she said at the end of the saying, touch my eyes, because these eyes are the reason why this happens. These eyes are the reason why we are discriminated. Our nose, our eyes, our look, way to look. And I really wanted to touch these eyes. I think it was important for me to get into and not to stay. There are a lot of humanitarian cause, a lot of political cause in questions in the world. For example, there is a lot of people that support very loudly Palestine or Kurdish. They are very focused on supporting them. They have association. They have a lot of things. But sometimes I feel that for Hazara, for example, doesn't exist, and I feel that this must exist in some way. And really, it was difficult to relate even to a lot of things, because being born in a place, a relative calm place, Italy, it's a normal country with a normal life. Yes, we have political scandals and something like that, but sometimes I really was in disbelief, hearing stories by people about 11 or 12 years old beheaded or raped or something like that. The story of Shukriya Tabassum really, really shocked me. And once I was having a little fight in words with a journalist in Italy, that he was like justifying Taliban. He was like saying that Taliban are freedom fighters, are rebels or something like that, that they were fighting against international coalition, so they were like almost the colonized movement or something like that. I never asked him this question, but I always thought that I had to ask him one question, and I was very sad that this question came in my mind after that discussion, and I wanted to ask him what kind of fight for freedom Taliban are doing while they behead a 9-year-old girl. What kind of fight for freedom they are doing when they shoot to the belly of a pregnant woman. What kind of fight they are doing when they destroy Said al-Shuhada or Karsh Center? What kind of fight are doing? Who is the enemy? A 9-year-old girl? And yes, that really convinced me that stories were difficult. Even a lot of memories from Afshar really shocked me. When I spoke with a survivor from Afshar, she said me she was looking at the breast of women cutted, or the blood of women with that Pashtun soldiers wrote bad sentences against Hazara with the blood of Hazara women or something like that. And it was difficult, but I think that after the shock, after the pain, it is necessary to deal with the story. It is necessary to write them, to let them know, and to let people know that you said very, very well one thing. Hazaras are victims of genocide, even if a lot of people dies in Afghanistan. And I strongly believe that saying all Afghan lives matter is like say all whites life matters. It's like a white citizen in the US that goes to an Afro-American citizen and he said to him, I don't understand racism. I will say strong sentences, but I really believe in it. Nobody will ever go to a Jew and say to him, there was no Holocaust. A lot of people died in lager. Nobody will go, because people as deeply understood what happened in lager camps, what happened during Nazis. And that has to happen for Hazaras too. That has to happen. People has to watch Afghanistan and to think in that place there was and there is now a genocide.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you on those points. So, like, what is your perception? What do you think in the future going to happen? Like, I know there is a big movement going on, and people are is saying like, okay, the Stop Hazara Genocide movement is started, and this is going really well. And what do you think like the future of this sort of like movement gonna happen?
I think that what happened in the last 2 months, it's sad by the way, because it happened because after Kaj attack. So it always made me think that it was a great movement, but it happened after 58 girls that were dead. But it was a great movement, and I think it was the time for Hazaras to stand to really not for them, because Hazaras have always stand up. It was time for people to start hearing them, hearing the shouting in the demonstration, I think that it's very important to focus now, and I say it by a researcher and a friend of Hazara people, to focus on explaining to people what happened. I mean, there are some cases, even in the last 20 years, that I think can let people understand very well what happened and why in Afghanistan. I made an example. The Basud case, what happened in Basud last year. 6 months before the arrival of Taliban, Afghan government decided to attack Basud to find Alipur with more than 2,000 men. 6 months after, they don't have the strength to fight Taliban. They always go back to Kabul since the Taliban take Kabul. So I think we have to tell about these stories. We have to make people understand that in 6 months, Afghan government was a lion against Alipur.
Hazaras, yeah.
Yes, and then a little rabbit against Taliban. Why? And I think it's very important to make people understand this, the facts that are not on the surface but remain on the ground. That the fact that, for example, Mullah Niazi, after he committed the genocide, he is responsible. The man that is most responsible for Mazar genocide. He was paid by Afghan government since 2016. He was like a man of Afghan government by a article by an inquiry of Wall Street Journal. They discovered that Afghan government was paying Mullah Niazi, and Mullah Niazi was tried to be healed last year. While Said al-Shuhada victims were taken off hospitals, he was taken in hospital because it was important to heal him. A genocidal, a killer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you brought a very important topic on Mullah Niazi. I think, yeah, based on what I said a little bit earlier, like the culture in Afghanistan started on eliminating, and that culture it started in the past, like 100 years ago, and then that came until like today. Mullah Niazi was one of them, and he did a massacre in Mazar Sharif, and he openly came in front of the TV and media, and he said like Tajik should go to Tajikistan, and then Uzbek should go to Uzbekistan, and Hazara should go to graveyard, which is like a culture has been created over the course of years, and like he was just practicing that same bad culture in Afghanistan. Yeah, I agree, and he was one of the horrible person, human being ever lived in our time. Yeah. Let's move a little bit. I want to talk more about your book. So like, suppose if someone want to buy your book, and how they should get in touch, like how they can access the book. Can they buy it from you, or can they access it online, or what is the process?
It can be bought online to some links I will give you if you want after the conversation. So if you want to share it publicly, it's good. I hope that I think I almost finished the first edition, because in some places there is not available anymore, and some yes. For example, I think it's available on Amazon, on some websites about libraries in Italy, but I would send you all. And yes, as I told you before, my next project, I think I will directly write in English because it's better maybe for better comprehension of all the words. And I really want, as I told you before, to arrive to all Europe. I think it's very important, even because, and you said a sentence that made me thought about this. When I do presentations, and I have 2 videos of Mullah Niazi that I always show, people really remains in shock when they hear the sentence about Hazara to Goristan or something like this.
Yeah.
That shows that people only has to understand, only has to know. it's not a lot of time that they don't care. It's about that they don't know. I'm doing the PhD, so I work in an academic field environment, and I can tell you that even in the academic environment, lots of professors that work in human rights fields, they were not aware of Hazara situations. And that shows how the first enemy to win is indifference, is ignorance in some way, ignorance of people that doesn't know about this topic. That is very important. So I think that the divulgation as books, as articles, as podcasts like this, as videos, as everything that can be useful is very important, because I think that if even in the presentations, I always think like this. I made, as for now, 6 or 7 presentation of the books, and in each presentation there was a person that maybe bought the book and said, I didn't know about that, thank you, or I didn't know about that, really I have to inform better. That is my goal. That is my principal goal, to create in people a question. And this question has to be, how it is possible that in 2022, in this world, this still happens in the silence? If a person start to feel like a disgust in this situation, so it's my goal. A person has to be disgusted by this, has to be said, a person has to think, in 2022, this cannot happen. This cannot happen. And I even think I always think to that, even in relation to Italian history, to after the World War II. Afghanistan needs justice. Afghanistan needs truth more than everything, and Hazaras more than everybody. And what I mean with this, I mean that Afghanistan is the land of impunity. Is the land where a person can be a genocidal and then now govern back Afghanistan. Is a place where a person can blow off 2 of the wonders of the world as the Buddhas and remain without punishment and now govern Afghanistan.
Yeah.
In Italy, after World War II, we didn't have trials. And after 50 years, but now even after 70 years, we found a president that is more likely to be near to fascism than other political parties. That is because we didn't accept reality. We didn't accept truth. In Germany, they had Nuremberg process, and they accepted truth. I think at Argentina, for example, the season of trials in Argentina, where they put in trial all the people that were part of the dictatorship. This needs to happen to Afghanistan. And once I was in a conference and a girl said, yes, but we cannot give life back to people who died in Abdul Rahman Khan genocide. I agree, but I think that we can give justice back to this person. I think we can give justice back to his family, to his to all the people that lives the same situation. And without this justice, without this truth, the situation, I think, will never change. This is, I think, the most important thing. Recognize the genocide, saying loudly that Afghan national identity was built on killing Hazaras. It's true. It's true. It's sad, but it's true. And denying history, it's the first step of creating new problems, I think.
Wow, I think you put it in a very beautiful line, those situation of Afghanistan and the issue of Afghanistan. I think you put it in very like powerful and simple term that everybody can understand. Yeah, like honestly, those lines were so good that when you said it, I'm like, yeah, I 100% agree. Like, suppose if they deny the genocide, if they deny the unfairness, if they deny the atrocities towards any citizen of Afghanistan, especially Hazara people, I think they are like creating more problem. They are just becoming part of more problem. I think you put it such in a good way. Yeah, I agree on that. And another point, I think earlier you mentioned about Ali Reza, like the line you're ending your book. Sorry, I'm keep coming back and again around your book. I think like because your book, I'm really keen to read it in the future, and I don't know why, for some unknown reason, I always love to see some Westerners, I mean like Western scholars' perspective towards Hazara, and like how they write stuff and how they narrate their story. It's to me, I think, very interesting. That's why I'm really keen to read your book. And that line you said, I think Ali Reza put it really beautifully. I think you put it at the very end of the book, which gonna make the reader gonna think like, okay, I suppose like my parents born in Afghanistan and I born in Iran. It's just Ali Reza's word, and my children, they are living in Indonesia. I don't know where the future of like my future generation, where they're gonna born. I think that can relate with a lot of Hazara diaspora, like myself and many other Hazaras who are living far away from their family or grandparents, or like, yeah, the land. I relate to that line. When I read that line on Twitter, and I was like, this is so beautifully put it together. I was like, I can relate to this one. Every Hazara can relate to that one. How did you feel about that one? I just wanted to know about your opinion on that line.
I think that it's a very powerful sentence, and that is why I decided to close the book, because, as you said, it described very well in three words what is the reality of millions of people, not thousands, but millions of people. And I think that it gave me more energy, we can say, to study different aspects of genocide. For example, I always thought that is needed to study the psychological effect that genocide gave to Hazaras. I was speaking to another friend once that he said to me that it's like we born with something in our stomach. It's sometimes a feel of being guilty, sometimes a feel of being discriminated, sometimes a feel that we don't have a place called home. But it's like genetically, we pass generation by generation these things, this space, this hair, this strange feeling in the stomach. And I think this has to be studied, really, because the diaspora, again, no one will go to a Jew and say, you don't need, look at what happened 70 years ago with the creation of Israel. No one will go to a Jew and say, you don't deserve to have a home. No one. But people are saying this to Hazaras. And what really annoy me, really disturb me, bother me, is the fact that sometimes the people who say this is the people that put maybe even a banner on Facebook like "Stop Hazara Genocide." But then when it comes to facts, they said, okay, but it happens to me a lot of time that I am in a congress or in a program or something like that, and if I say Hazara instead of Afghan, the people say, okay, well, you can be Afghan. No, it's the topic of my study.
Yeah.
I'm studying this, why I should say Afghan if I don't believe this. And once I told to an Italian person, okay, can I call you French? No, because I'm not French. Okay, why are you calling him Afghan? It's a matter of language. It's a matter of respecting people who, as you said, has a completely different life in another country and has to be their own identity. I think the people of diaspora can tell lots of stories, lots of feelings, and even the fact that these words from Ali Reza, he's living a poor condition in Indonesia, has thousands of other Hazara refugees stuck there because of Australian government or because of decision that doesn't allow them to have a normal life. But he believes, he still fights, and he said these words because his words are not like to say, I want people to be kind with me. No, his words are to say, I want people to fight with me. And I think that is the greatest difference. He doesn't want compassion. He wants people to be with him. And that is the great difference of Hazaras. I always tell in presentation in Italy. In Italy, we have this problem about resiliency. There was, after COVID lockdown, a lot of people tattoos with resiliency after maybe 1 month closed in their house. 1 month closed in their house, and they were getting mad.
Mm.
I told every time to Italian people, this is not resiliency. Resiliency is being killed by centuries and continuing to stand up. Resiliency is having the strength to go to a person that doesn't know nothing about and say, I'm not Afghan, I am Hazara, for
Mm.
example. Resiliency is saying being Hazara is not a crime, being Hazara is an honor. It's a proud thing. This is resiliency in a country that doesn't allow you to say this is resiliency. This is the strength of fighting. And the words of Reza, I think, are the perfect example. That is resiliency. He doesn't know where the future of his family will be, but he is sure the future of his family will be as our identity.
Wow, you just blow me away. Honestly, like no, I'm really like I didn't know much about you before this, but based on the time we are speaking, I think I've become your fan. Honestly, like if you ever
Oh,
come to
thank you.
Australia and do a
We're
conference
friend. We're
about
friend. We're friend.
that,
I prefer friend.
absolutely, that's going to be an honor for me. If you ever come to Australia and do a conference on Hazara people about your paper and book, honestly, like I will be one of your number one fan supporter, or whatever you call it. But yeah, those line you put it together, I think uh, we always try to convince our own Hazara. We were like, okay, if you call yourself Hazara, nothing wrong with that. And yeah, like instead of like calling yourself with fake Afghan identity, which is not a true one, and sometimes it's just like creating more confusion for them. They were like, oh well, there is no land to be called Hazaristan or a country called Hazaristan. I'm like, yeah, but the fake identity Afghan has been imposed on us for so long, and along the way we lost our own identity. That's the problem. Yeah, and I think you put it beautifully, and with the resilience, like metaphoric way. I think yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I totally lost to track my question, but yeah, do you want to add
Don't worry.
more? Yeah, no, like I'm looking forward to your book, and then my next question was, are you working on any right now? You're studying, I know, like you're doing your thesis and those sort of stuff. Are you planning to write any other book on Hazara people as well? Or
Yes.
not?
Yes. My PhD is entirely on the Hazara, and the title is my PhD wants to focus on genocide more than on history because I think that it's more important for a study to be focused on genocide, and because I had all the time to write about history better. But yes, I have some projects. One of that is even to write about as I told you before, different aspects that can really make understand people, not only the attacks, not only the massacres, but for example, I want to write about the inequalities of food and a humanitarian aid distribution in these 20 years. How Nangarhar, Kandahar, Langman provinces always took more, and how, for example, Daikundi, who is the most deprived province in the country, has not taken the help he deserved. I spoke with Salima Mazzari, with Abiba Sarabi, with governors about this, and I want to speak more with them about this because I really believe it's important to let people understand that even not during Taliban, but even during the Afghan government held by an international coalition with troops, even in this period, there was a great amount of discrimination. I think it's important, for example, to speak about what happened to Tutap and the Enlightenment movement, how that thing could really change Bamiyan history, Hazaristan history, and how Afghan government were afraid. Let's say were afraid that could change Afghanistan Hazara history in some way. I want to even, and that is my greatest project. I want to try to write a biography about Abdullah Ali Mazzari.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I think it's fundamental. Okay, if you go on Google and you write Abdullah Ali Mazzari, there is no one book. There is no one book in Western world about him. There is no books in English about him. If you write in Google Massoud, you found hundreds of books, even novels or something like that. But I want to explain people that in 1993, while Massoud was taking sometimes even Iranian weapons to kill Hazaras, Mazari was speaking about the role of women. Mazari was picking women to be in the directorate of Ibn Wadat. Mazari was saying Hazara is not a crime. I think the world has to know that our leader, a revolutionary leader, has existed in Afghanistan, and it was not Massoud, it was Abdulali Mazari. I think it's very important to let people know that it's possible to do politics in a different way in Afghanistan, and he was doing it. He was doing it before they killed him.
Oh wow! I think I'm already very fonded and excited about the way you explained it, like comparing the people who was like bringing change in Afghanistan. I loved it the way you put it. Like Mazari was not only like thinking. Mazari was totally thinking differently, and based on what you said, like he was focusing more on Hazara woman right and like those sort of stuff. I loved it, and I'm so looking forward to that, and hopefully. Uh, I know like you must be really busy working on those all projects, but good luck, all the best. Do it, go for it.
Thank you.
Please let me know
Thank
if
you.
I can be any help. I know like I'm not as much educated as you are best
No,
about the
don't say it. Don't
history. No,
say
no,
it.
no, no.
Don't
About the
say it.
history. No, no, no. Hold on. About the history of Hazara people. I think I have to respect like you are. You have been dealing with the history for like so long, and you know so much about the Hazara people, and like you understand the different angles and those sort of stuff. I'm not trying to sugarcoat you, but like honestly, like yeah, and to be humble and say this, I think yeah, you deserve to be acknowledged and recognized on that part. Yeah, yeah, like
But
I'm.
can I add a thing? Can I add only a thing about this? I think it's, for me, it's a richness to speak with every Hazara person, from the illiterate refugees to the first educated Hazara, because really every Hazara history can change the genocide is a general factor, and I think for me it's always an enrichment to speak with every Hazaras about every topic. I always feel lucky and proud when I have the occasion to interview some Hazaras in every field, always. So for me, I still consider that I have a lot to learn, and I will with the helps of Hazaras always.
Okay, cool. So that's gonna bring me to my next question. Have you ever been to Afghanistan or any Hazara area in Afghanistan by any chance?
I have never been in Afghanistan. Last year I was organizing to come, but Taliban didn't want it to, so it happens this way. I am asking to the NGO I collaborate with to go, but they are not very likely, because after the book they think
Yeah.
I will not be welcomed in Afghanistan. Next year I will go for sure in Islamabad and Tehran for sure.
Mhm.
Probably even to Hazara town in Pakistan. I will try um, to search, to go to all the places I can found Hazara people. The most important thing for now is that I'm searching for funds, because unfortunately the university has not given me the scholarship, so I am doing the PhD without a salary, and I
Oh my
am
God.
trying. Yes, this is Italy. This is completely Italy.
No, no, we have
Um,
to. I think we have to find a way uh, to kind of like put a little bit of effort so you can do your research and those sort of stuff instead of like
Yes,
focusing on the
I'm
financial part.
participating to some calls for some funds, and I really believe that I can take them and continue working for what it's regards to me. I told you I really want, if it was for me, I would be in Afghanistan right now, but I have to wait for a better condition, and
Hmm.
as for that moment I will certainly go to Iran and to Pakistan before, and I
Okay.
think even in this year.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Soon I will be visiting Pakistan as well, especially Hazaraistan. yeah, I will message you when I'm gonna go and those sort of stuff. If you would be around, like, yeah,
Great,
would be lovely to see
great.
you there and show you around. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Apart from that, so like definitely you're gonna send me the link and I'll put the link of the book so people can purchase the book and in the description of this video and on all my social media and those sort of stuff. And another thing I wanted to ask you was how people get in touch with you, how if people want to talk to you or give you more resources, how they get in touch with you.
I can give you my email without
Hmm.
problem. I can give you, you have my Twitter. They can reach me on Twitter every time, but to email too. And I have a lot of even on Instagram. I have an Instagram a page is called Voci Dall'Hazaristan as the title of the book.
Hmm.
So in that way, even on Facebook. As I told you before, every new conversation for me is new richness. So I will be very happy to be reached by all the people that they want.
Amazing. Definitely, I will put that your Twitter handle in the description of this video. I think
Sure.
that's one of the easiest way to reach people. Please go follow Claudio and his work and support him if you can. I think it's quite amazing, like the amount of work he's putting for Hazara people, and definitely if we can support and like his work, at least show some love for his work, that would be amazing. Go people support him. Yeah, definitely. I hope this video gonna go far along between people so everyone can reach out to you if they want anything or they can help with anything. Yeah, and I think like we are almost an hour and speaking. So anything I haven't asked you, you want to share with us, please do so. Yeah, or maybe anything I forgot to ask you, please share with us. Like this is the time. Yeah.
I can only add I'm really thankful for this conversation. I loved to speak with you. I really loved the question, our how we speak. I really appreciate it. The only thing I can add that is that I told even to to other people other people I interviewed. Um, it's a thing that is in my mind since some months that after the Cash Center and after I saw the reaction of Hazaras, after I saw how Hazaras still take pens and not guns after all this, I realized that there was a famous singer in Italy. It was called Fabrizio De André, almost a poet. He wrote a line in a song that say that you cannot stop the wind because the wind pass. If you
Mm,
put the hand, the wind will pass. You can
mm,
only make him lose time. You can only make him delay, but the wind will pass.
mm.
I strongly believe that Azaras are the wind in this occasion.
Oh, yeah.
Azaras are destined to win this battle because they fight with intelligence, they fight with pens, they fight with culture, they fight with education, and not with guns. And it's true. It's very true that a gun can kill a people, but it's true indeed that a pen could convince thousands and thousands of people. So I am really sure that Azaras in this case are the wind and they will win.
Amazing. What a great metaphor. I think you put it together, everything, and uh, the resilience of Hazara people is wind, and yeah, they're gonna pass by all this hurdle and difficulties. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you one more question. Have you learned any Hazaragi language? I mean, like, can you speak a little bit or no? Or you are still in the process of learning?
Yes, I will I will make you laugh right now. One of my best friends, Hazara friends, say me that I am a Janzan because
What? Sorry,
when
like I didn't catch that part.
Janzan, I don't know if it's right my pronunciation because when he cooks Hazara food for my friends, he said, for example, give it to your family, take to your family. I always eat for myself. So you know, I love Bolani. It's It's something that really I will eat bolani in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. So
Wow.
when
Okay.
I see when I see Hazaraji food, I always lose my mind. And that I am meant for this. I know I know how to say my name is Claudio. I'm Claudio Stan.
Okay. Ah, that's good. That's easy.
I know Salam. I know Vale. Kubi.
Oh, you know a lot.
Um, yes, but I stop here. I don't know more than this. But
No,
yes, I'm trying to learn, and I will definitely will, because the definitive goal is to, in the future, translate my own book alone, and it will be very good.
oh, amazing. No, honestly, like looking forward to the future book. Hopefully, we uh, keep the conversation, and then within a few months' time or a few years' time, I think we do one more podcast and then more podcasts in the future.
Sure,
So yeah, to keep track of like how
sure.
you're going, and I would love to
When you
keep
want.
updating. Yeah, and honestly, like today, and it's night in here and day for you guys. I really enjoy talking to you. It's our first time without any script, like we talk and share stories. I love listening to you and learning from you, and there was a lot of great conversation between us. I enjoyed it. Thank you once again. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, I
Thank you.
think yeah, I hope to see you next time again, and we talk more on the work you have been doing. And as a Hazara guy, I think I really want to thank you for what you're doing and right now. Honestly, like this means a world
It's
to us. Yeah, thank you.
it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure and an honor. Really, I'm proud to do this for Azaras, because, as I told you even last time in an interview, I think nowadays I have more Azara friends than Italian friends. So
Yeah.
I know more Azaras than Italians at this point.
I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully, in Italy, those Hazara families they are treating you well, like with the bolani and like those
Yes,
Hazaragi
yes,
foods. Yeah,
yes, yes. A lot, a lot, a lot.
yeah.
They spoil me a lot. They always cook for me. Always, they are great.
Oh, so good to hear that. Thank you. Okay, Claudio. Thank you so much once again for your time, and
Thank you.
thanks for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experiences with us. And it's always a pleasure to listen to you. Hopefully, in the future again. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was really a great pleasure for me. And I was very happy to do this.
Okay, great. On the happy note, everyone, thank you for being with us until now. If you are still watching, you are one of the awesome people. And please do me a favor, go support Claudio. I'll leave the link of his Twitter handle and different pages down in the description of this video. Please click on them and then go support Claudio's work and his what he's doing, and follow him and to give him some love and show some love for him, and that's going to make me happy. Please leave your comments and criticism in the comment section below. I would love to follow up with them with you guys in the future videos. So thank you everyone for being with us, and Claudio, once again, thanks for being sharing your
Thank you.
stories with
Thank
us.
you.
صدا یک درسته